Today, I want to talk on being a generational blessing, becoming a generational blessing. You know, in life, the things that we do, decisions that we make do not just affect us. They affect our children, they can affect our children's children. So the good and bad things that happen in our lives can be passed on to other generations after us. They can be passed on from our children to their children, and then it goes on and on. So also the good and bad things that happen in our lives can stop or end with us depending on our actions or inactions. So we must be conscious of this fact and know that we do not live just for ourselves, but we are living our lives, and that the things that we do will affect future generations coming after us. So as a good parent, what do you do? As a good man, as a good father, the Bible says you should leave an inheritance for your children's children. That inheritance shouldn't just be money and houses. You can leave a legacy of good works. You can leave a legacy of godliness. You can leave a legacy of excellence. Remember how that, when the angels of God were going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and God was passing by, he stopped by in Abraham's house, and when he was leaving, he said, can I hide this thing from Abraham, knowing that he will instruct his family, knowing that he would lead his children in the way of the Lord? Can God trust you with generations unborn? Can God trust you with the next generation? Stand up and be the one that will lay a foundation of righteousness. So what does a good leader do? What does a good person do? What does a good man or a good woman do? You set the standard, you live the standard, you teach that standard, and you pass it on to the next generation. So as a godly man, a godly woman, you set that standard, the standard of a godly marriage, the standard of a godly home, the standard of righteousness. So whether good or bad, you are passing something on to the next generation. You decide what you want to pass on. A good example also is Timothy in the Bible. The Bible was talking about how that his mother, Lois, was a godly woman, and even his grandmother was also godly, and they passed that on to their son Timothy, and he too became a Christian. So we need to take that conscious step, make a conscious decision that you want, to leave something behind for your children. And you will be the one to decide. You decide what you want to leave in the lives of your children. How do you want to be remembered by your children? What are you passing on? You can't say you're not passing on anything. Whatever you do or do not do will mean that you are transferring something to the next generation. Let them pick up something that is, a blessing from you, so that life will be easier for the next generation, because you lived the blessings that came to the family of David because of David. The Bible talks about the sure mercies of David, how that when they were dedicating the temple, even after David had died, the Bible says that, God was speaking to them, and he said that even if the children of David sin and they do wrong, he says, for David's sake, I will have mercy on them when they come back to me, and they confess their sins. God says, I will forgive them like a father, and he went on to promise David. He says, your heir, your child will be on the throne. If you notice something that is bad, that is a negative pattern, you decide that it ends with you. It will not be passed on to your children. They will not suffer the things that you are suffering. The Bible says that the righteous are a foundation for many generations. So decide the kind of foundation that you want to lay for your family, so that they will be glad that you lived. Be a person of blessing. Become a generational blessing. There are so many businesses that have been passed on from generation to generation, and they're still doing well. They're still growing. You know how they will say that my grandfather started this business, and then he handed it over to my father, and then my father, and we learned, and this was what my grandfather always said, my mom always said. Let's be conscious of this fact. We are laying a foundation of righteousness, of godliness, of love, of generosity, of faithfulness. And our children, we will teach them these things, and they will grow up in it, and they will worship God, and they will honor God even much more than we are doing. These are the things that we should do. God bless you as you lay that foundation.